Good evening, Wes Dove with Dove Development and Consulting. So put yourself in a situation where you're trying to communicate with somebody that speaks an entirely different language. And I'm not talking about what I shared in last week's email series about the platinum rule and our different communication styles. That's a big piece of it, and I'll get to that in just a second. I'm talking about, say the other person speaks Spanish and you only speak English, and think of, inevitably when you're in that situation, you raise your voice and you speak louder, your tone's a little bit more emphatic, and so on. And it's almost as though if we say it louder and we say it more forcefully, they'll understand a new language, and we say it over and over and over. Now, put yourself in a scenario where you've heard somebody say it and you do understand their language, you just have no earthly idea what they're talking about. I can think of a number of years ago when I was at the University of Michigan taking a class in lean manufacturing. The professor talked about a scenario, and I don't remember exactly what it was because, quite frankly, I never understood the scenario he was going. And he was an incredibly academic and intelligent person, and he goes through this, and country boy me is raising my hand and saying, "Sir, I didn't understand what you just said." And he repeated exactly what he just said again. Same words, same tone, same everything. So I raised my hand again. Okay, I still don't understand. And he repeated the exact same thing again. So we went back and forth a little bit, and finally I just gave up and said, okay, I'll either figure it out or I won't. We'll just move on. But how many times have we been in that scenario where we just say the same thing over and over thinking, well, you clearly didn't hear me, that's why you didn't understand. I think about a friend of ours in Idaho where she gave a scenario of some ladies making soup, and one asks for a peeler and the other one didn't understand what she meant by a peeler. And for whatever reason, the lady says, a peeler, and she says it louder, and it went back and forth 3 or 4 times. We've all been there, right? Why does that happen to us? Why do we do that? In Everyone Communicates If You Connect, John Maxwell says, if you can't find a way to communicate effectively, you won't be able to reach your potential. You won't succeed in a way you desire, and you'll be forever frustrated. Think of how frustrating it is in those situations where we're trying to get our message across and it's just not being received. Over the next couple days in a daily dose of leadership, I'm going to hit on a couple of the principles that John shares in that book and really try to frame it so you can take what we've covered over these last couple of weeks with what we talk about in emerging leader development and what I built on last week in the series where I really talked about how we apply the platinum rule to treat others as we would want them to treat us, as they would want us to treat them, as opposed to the golden rule where it says do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So it's really about how can we take that next step in connecting with others the way they need us to. And in these principles, like connecting takes more energy than we think it will. And, connectors always go first. As I go through some of these principles, it's really about how can we make a lasting impact? How can we make sure that we're not going to be forever frustrated? Early in this book, I remember when John wrote it in 2010 or so, he referenced we're up against, the average person receives about 30 to 35,000 messages in some way, shape, or form every single day. And that's what we're up against. If we want to get our message through, we need to make sure it stands out. How can we do that? And these principles, compounded with some of those other things that I've covered in the last few weeks, are really designed to give us an edge. And that's why Cindy and I do so much around communication, because we've seen so many good people move from that technical role into a role where they're now faced with leading a group of people, but the communication and the connection is really the disconnect, and it keeps them from recognizing their full potential. So that's what you can expect over the next couple of days, some of those key principles. But what I'll stress to you is, how can we make sure that we stand out? How can we make sure that we're making an impact immediately and our message is being heard, it's being received, even against all those other things that are competing for attention and our time throughout the day? So hope that helps. Look forward to sharing with you over the next couple days. And if you're seeing this message and you don't get our Daily Dose of Leadership email series, I'd encourage you to click the subscription box and take advantage of that. It's completely complimentary, and look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day. God bless.